I will now read the probable cause as presented in the report, and frankly, I would like to offer an amendment before I read it. Actually, I'll read it and then show where the amendment is, and then ask for a second. The probable cause. The National Transportation Safety Board determines that the probable cause of the January 2007 derailment of the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority Train 504 as it traversed a standard turnout track near the Mount Vernon Square Station in Washington, D.C., was a wheel climb on car 5152 that was initiated by a rough wheel surface created when the wheel was trued with a milling machine. Lack of quality control measures to ensure that wheel surfaces were smoothed after truing, and Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority's failure to have a process to implement safety improvements identified following similar accidents and related research projects. I would like to modify that by reading that the Washington and, this will be the last part of that cause, and Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority's failure to have, and my change would be an effective process to implement safety improvements identified following similar accidents and related research project. Is there a second to that modification? There's a second. At this point, is there discussion? I'd like to know what staff feels about that modification.
Staff has no objection to that.
Okay. Any other modifications to the probable cause?
Yes,
Vice Chairman?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I would propose that we add. We're talking about the rough wheel surface created when the wheel was trued with a milling machine, the lack of quality assurance, quality control measures to ensure that wheel surfaces are smoothed after truing, and I would like to add, and the lack of a guarded turnout. I'd like that somewhere in the probable cause, and I propose it be there.
Is there a second to the Vice Chairman's? Is there a second? Okay, Member Higgins, let's have discussion. How does staff feel about adding the lack of a derail to the probable cause? Mr. Chipkovich, do you have a comment on the proposed addition to the probable cause?
I think we have checked with staff and we have no objection to that.
With that, we will vote on the two additions. Is that okay, Council, putting them both together without objection to my colleagues?
I believe so in this situation.
And shall discuss the reason for my amendment. So
That's wonderful. Love to hear you.
Thank you. Staff did feel fairly strongly that had the guarded turnout been installed, the derailment would not have occurred, the wheel climb would not have occurred, regardless of the condition of the wheel. So I felt like that after studying this since we met in the last 10 days, that's where I am. Thank you.
I'm trying to add that so I can read it correctly. I will read the probable cause again with the modifications as I hope I'm capturing by the Vice Chairman. The NTSB determines that the probable cause of the January 2007 derailment of the Washington Metropolitan Transit Authority Train 504 as it traversed standard turnout track near Mount Vernon Square Station in Washington, D.C. was a wheel climb on car 5152 that was initiated by a rough wheel surface created when the wheel was trued with a milling machine. The lack of quality control measures to ensure the wheel surfaces were smoothed after truing. A lack of a guardrail on the number 8 turnout, and the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority's failure to have an effective process to implement safety improvements identified following similar accidents and related research projects. Does that capture what you say? With the motions been seconded, I'll now call the question. All in favor signify by aye. And a hand? Aye. Probable cause has been unanimously adopted as